Let's be brutally honest right now. That's a big question.
I'm looking for someone who doesn't want to go to base camp, but they want to go to the very top.
Whether it's here, India, New York.
Civilization was born at happy hour.
That's what wins. That's what stands out. That's what people are interested in.
That's what I want to know.
The Hospopreneurs Podcast with James Henderson.
Hello and welcome to episode 146 of the Hospopreneurs Podcast. Co-founder of Viral Ventures, Aden Levin joins me on the program today with over 15 years experience in the events industry. Prior to his current business, he exited a successful UK travel and festival company called Mainstage Festivals, which featured on Dragon's Den. If you haven't seen the program, it's essentially Shark Tank in the UK and was the most highly valued company on the hit show. I'm glad to share the interview today that focuses on his current business, creating immersive worlds and customer-centric experiences. Folks, so that we can keep running the show, Access Collins has sponsored this episode. Their revolutionary booking and inquiry management software for hospitality is designed to help operators increase foot traffic, maximize revenue, and tackle no-shows. And they're doing that. The average user on their platform sees 18% more web bookings, an increase of 25% on inquiry conversion rates, and up to 900 hours saved in admin each year through automation. If that might help you too, check them out at bit.ly/hosposponsor. Hello and welcome to the show, Aden.
Hello. Yeah, thanks for having me.
Aden, it's a pleasure to have you on. I'm looking forward to opening up the interview with you today. And I know James couldn't join us, but I'm very excited to have a chat with you about Viral Ventures and how things have been developing for you and what you're doing to adapt now as well. So thank you again for joining me. But as you know, the first question that I like to ask on the program is a crazy hospitality story or exceptional hospitality experience. So I'd love to hear, what is your crazy hospitality story or exceptional experience?
I think for me, it'd probably be, it's pretty cliched, it'd be the experience that's probably led me down the path to where we are today. So it would be in New York when I was much younger. I think I was probably about 10 or 11. And we went to this crazy restaurant, basically some dining experience, which at the time, technology was, it's going to be early 2000s. And yeah, it was a themed kind of Jekyll and Hyde restaurant. And I just remember walking in and straight away from Nottingham in England, which is a pretty stale, mundane town, walking into this restaurant in New York. And the first thing you're greeted by is an actor dressed as a sort of 1920s host that greets you and brings you into an elevator. And as you go into the elevator, the walls of the elevator start to close in on you. The elevator kind of goes up and the experience kind of starts. And it was just this amazing, incredible dining experience show where the pictures on the wall would talk to you, the statues talk to you. They would clearly had someone in a control room having lots of fun with a microphone and some cameras, and all the wait staff were actors. The whole thing was just this crazy, insane show with everything super interactive. And it just kind of blew me away, this preteen kid in this venue. And I was just like, wow, this is amazing. And yeah, just from that one experience kind of stuck with me. And I think that's kind of been a huge driver kind of going back to that with kind of everything that we do at Viral Ventures.
Fantastic. So from there then, what is it then that really drives you, that really inspires you to do what you do today? So what is it about that particular experience that has connected with you and inspired you to do what you do?
From sort of experiencing that and seeing how something like a dinner could be transformed into this whole unique world, the whole Disneyland effect, that very feature right there really, for me, was like growing up and kind of parking that aside and then kind of revisiting it. When I sort of started my first business early on, it was just always been about how can we make sure what we do is the most fun, creative, and I guess the best product possible. That one experience has kind of opened my eyes to like, wow, you can transform a restaurant. You're not just going in to eat dinner. You can create a whole world and a whole experience around that. And I think that was something that drove me into everything that we do with our experiences and moving forward to be like, actually, we can transform everyday touch points that people might interact with socially into a really fun, engaging, immersive experience that's completely different and that people will talk about. And I think the ability to be super creative and really engage with people, that they walk away and they're talking to their friends about what they went through, and everyone had a different version of the experience as well, is something that drives us on in the business to deliver those kind of experiences.
How do you go about creating that sort of experience for the participants, the guests, the patrons, whatever you call these people who are part of this performance in each of these shows, essentially? How do you go about creating that and ensuring that your vision is communicated?
Lots of creative sessions and brainstormings, and lots of customer walkthroughs from everything from their shoes. So looking at what information do they receive before they arrive through to what information do they receive after the event. The whole customer journey is mapped out. In our venues, it's everything from what they might interact with in the toilet versus what might appear on their bill, et cetera, et cetera. We kind of look at all those different touch points that a customer engages with in the various spaces and at the events. And I guess we completely brainstorm and map out and then brain dump the different engagement points and how we can make those things all interactive and unique. So it's a long kind of drawn out process and lots of trial and error and testing different things and fun technologies to sort of see what we can just kind of constantly just change things up and make things interactive.
What's the process that you go through? You talked about brainstorming and brain dumping, and it sounds like there's quite an iterative process there where you're actually developing those ideas. There's a question I normally ask a little bit later in the interview, and it's quite a large question. It's almost triple barreled. So if you can just summarize how this process normally takes place for you, if you have a system or process for it. But first is ideation of whatever you come up with, this concept, and then entertainment of that. How do you play with that idea? And then we can see how you execute them. So focusing on the first two sections of the development of concepts, how do you go through that process?
Initially for us, that's in the world of creating exciting pop-up event and venues, our data and analytics is kind of our actually core decision drivers into where we go and what we kind of tend to create. So I guess a step back from that, as a team, we have a whole load of backlog catalog of concepts that we constantly want to launch, whether that's a weekend pop-up event or festival, or it's going to be a longer standing venue that we might run. And so for us to kind of generate those ideas, we look further afield, we kind of see what's trending. It might be that we're working with a certain licensed product or brand that we want to create something current for. It may be that we're kind of tapping into trends and things that are pretty popular within pop culture, or it may be that we've come across something that we just want to really push and think will work or is kind of topical. And then from those ideas, we flesh them out, we generate how that will kind of look in terms of a customer facing product. And then we go into a sort of testing phase where we kind of drip feed the different products and options to our audience and our database. And we kind of see basically what the uptake is from the engagement side. And then we kind of then go into a pre-launch phase with those kind of products. So we'd kind of have an idea lab where we kind of flesh out those different things, whether that's creating mood boards and storyboards and looking at then creating an actual project on that and P&Ls and the financials and pulling all those things together. And then once we've got that top level project, we then run a kind of bit of a data drive to see what our reception would be with our pretty large global database. And then from that, we then have a few winners that we then go on to kind of produce. That is kind of top level how we sort of operate those things.
That's fantastic. And I appreciate your insight in that as well. And it's quite a different process to how a lot of hospitality operators more typically would be thinking. Some of them do, as I've learned, think about these sorts of things, but because you've got this deep customer journey through a story, it's a very deep and different process that you do go through to do that for the patrons, guests, participants. What do you actually call them as well, just so I can get the right term there?
Yeah, customers, guests. We haven't got a special customer name.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm just trying to find the right term that you might use for them as well. But thank you for sharing such insights in your development process for those ideas, Aden. Now, I'm conscious of the fact that, we haven't really explained what Viral Ventures is and what you do, and the fact that I've explained that you've got so many of these different ideas and incredible ones. So do you want to give us a bit of an overview of Viral Ventures and the work that you do and some of the projects that you've been part of?
Yeah, sure. In a nutshell, Viral Ventures, we're an immersive experiential sort of hospitality brand. We run a whole series of a multitude of pop-up events across Australia, the US, and Europe. And then most recently, over the last sort of 18 months, despite the fantastic timing of the pandemic, we've really been pushing our actual venues and getting a strong foothold in the market. So we've been opening multiple venues across sort of Australia and the US over the last sort of 18 months. And I guess each of those venues that we sort of operate and run, they've all got their own unique concept or theme to them. So, we have a flagship venue in Sydney at the kind of old famous World Bar in Potts Point, which we've turned into a multi-story actor-led kind of immersive experience space where each floor is a different journey that you can go on. It's a kind of combination of escape room, theatre show and cocktail making with a main bar on the sort of ground floor through to transforming one of the old burger projects from Rockpool that we've turned into a 1950s US diner called Karen's, where the novelty is that all the staff are actually rude to you, playing on the whole trending Karen trend through to a whole host of different themes and concepts across the different venues that we run. So yeah, I guess we're all about doing things differently. We don't just open a bar for the sake of it being a bar. We would open a bar with it there being some kind of driving factor to bring an audience and customers down as a destination aside from the drinks that are being served.
And you've done well to scale with such a range of different projects as well. So how do you systemize the businesses to develop as you grow and ensure that it is scalable? You've come from a music background, and I'm wondering if it's that performance focus that you're coming from to be thinking about these things, whether that's the base to scale from or whether it's a hospitality operations base that you're using. So I'm interested in how you answer that one.
I guess it's a kind of combination of both. For us, especially from the music background with the festivals and organising festivals and then touring of artists and those sort of things, I guess our kind of whole mantra in the business has been test in Sydney or test in Australia, from there kind of tour out. So we've been pretty lucky that we've found a pretty receptive and captive audience within Australia that we've been able to, test a whole load of different concepts on, refine, get right. And then we've been able to get the structure and everything kind of complete within that. And then we roll that out into multiple different cities and countries. So we'd launch one and then refine that and then kind of roll that out as almost like a self-franchise model is kind of how we operate as a business.
What sort of systems are you trying to standardize as you do that?
So definitely we try and have a kind of everything from the decor through to the customer journey, the customer experience, the drinks that the customers consume, the menus, everything we try and make similar. So to some extent, so that the customer in Los Angeles has a similar experience, the experience we got correct in Sydney. And so we've tried to produce a kind of roadmap, a Bible, a kind of an operational guide that we can, remotely train a team up with those principles to kind of deliver that concept.
And that's something that I'd definitely like to ask you more about. The fact that you have been remotely training and hiring and growing through the pandemic. So how have you navigated that? And we're not just talking across Australia, but internationally you've been doing this. So have you been going through that process? I know it's a very broad question, but maybe some points along the way there, that things that you've learned about growing remotely and things to look out for.
Yeah, totally. I think for us pre-pandemic, we had a pretty solid foothold in the US, which was, really helpful for us that we already had a team on the ground, albeit a small team. We had a team of staff over in North America that we knew was super capable of being able to be trained and then take on those learnings and help impart that onto various different team members. Yeah, so luckily we had the foresight early on to ensure that whatever product we were creating, we were thinking about where the next city that product would be going to or brand. So we early on were filming the experiences, filming training, making sure that we created pretty solid Bibles or we call them Bible, but your manuals, your guides, how everything should work and flow, and filming one of the experiences from start to finish and really making sure that there's kind of no stone uncovered there from someone on the other side of the world being able to receive this and understanding how to take that forward, and then having the benefit of Zoom and all those sorts of things that became pretty popular as a result of the pandemic, to be able to train up staff remotely and bring in our guys and really sort of talk through how they operate, even to the stage where we had team members in Australia kind of live feeding an event happening or a bar opening overseas, and we were kind of watching this thing unfold and then giving comments and being able to help feedback from afar. Yeah, definitely having the team there already was a huge bonus of knowing we could rely on these people, and the pre-planning that kind of goes into knowing that we want to be rolling out these events globally. So making sure that we have the structure in place to be able to kind of copy paste from our side and be able to do that. And so be it that with borders being closed, we were still in a pretty solid position to do that, and also to be in a good position to be able to know what we're looking for. And there's obviously, as a kind of sad result of the pandemic, there's plenty of vacant premises out there that for us, exactly what we need.
In that growth and development and your team sharing even that culture of the business to develop things and ensuring that stability of that culture, how do you ensure that that same exceptional experience is transferred through that system that you are implementing across cities and countries even? How do you ensure that? How do you ensure that the same exceptional hospitality experience is communicated and transferred across countries?
Yeah, so it's a good question. For us, that's the main difficulty in ensuring the kind of quality control. For us, it's definitely one of the major things that we want to implement is that quality control across the board, as you would be if you were running as a franchise, albeit these are our own kind of products. And that, we do that with lots of test runs, trial runs, feedback, mystery shoppers. Huge for us is customer feedback and customer feedback forms. And we have a whole part of our team that just weekly, daily reviewing all the insights that are coming through. And straight away, if we can see something that doesn't seem right, we have the various responsible managers in those territories get called upon, and we investigate, why is this happening? How can we improve on that? So I think for us, it's a case of ensuring before we open to the general public, we have enough trial opens and soft openings that we're confident of what we are delivering. And then once we're live, we're constantly reviewing that customer data and feedback to ensure that if something is slipping, that we're constantly improving. And also, the global markets are different. Something that might work in Melbourne that won't necessarily translate in Vancouver. So it's ensuring that, those sort of things can be tested and tried. And, it's a whole process that we go through constantly. And even in places where we are open and have been running for, 2-3 years, it's a case of constantly still reviewing. We never sort of rest on just, we've got a 5-star Google rating and it's all great. We always want to be on top of any issues that may arise so we can, straight away nip those things in the bud, which is obviously so important in this industry.
So from the customer perspective, what is it that creates that exceptional experience?
I think it's depending on the experience they're going to, I think it's just being involved in something that's completely novel, it's unique, it's different. And I guess for that time period, they're just transported into another space. So some comments that we're getting a lot, especially during the last 8-9 months in Australia, people perhaps being apprehensive for a while about being in venues or engaging things. For that period that they were with us, they completely forgot there was a global pandemic going on or any kind of issues. And, they were transformed out of the norms of what they would be thinking and be moved into our kind of space. So I think for us, it's all about for that time period that they're with us. I like to call it the Disneyland effect of just the movie magic of for that period that you're in that space, you're completely transformed into this environment.
So Aden, now, what is it that you're learning about or exploring? So where are you pushing things forward or innovating? You've got these incredible ideas and businesses, so many concepts. You've said you've got a backlog of concepts. Where are you pushing things forward in such a creative space?
We're really now driving the growth of our venues and in-venue activations and experiences. So for us, we really want to drive and focus upon our venues, our growth of our in-venue experiences, and kind of grow out the brand as a leading experiential immersive hospitality company that's known for putting on these incredible venues and pop-ups and things that kind of, if we come and open something in your city, then you're excited because we've come with some solid credentials. And so for us, we're really driving that, the actual longer term venue part of the business and looking at different opportunities, whether that's in shopping malls, whether that's in car parks. We see huge opportunities in turning everyday retail and hospitality led businesses into being something completely different and interactive.
I guess activating and engaging a space that otherwise wouldn't be very exciting into something that is. That's sort of what I'm taking.
Yeah, exactly. And also breathing life, I guess, into spaces that may have fortunately ceased trading. And we see some good opportunity within whatever that space may be, and creating something pretty unique. So yeah, for us, it's all about just growing our venue numbers and really becoming a bit of a pioneer and leader into kind of unique venues and unique concepts.
So, what does the future of the hospitality experience look like then? Like in a regular retail space? Is it changing, or is this just your idiosyncratic approach and your subset that you're focusing in on? Or is there a general change that's happening across hospitality?
I think there is. I think there's definitely a growing demand with the whole Gen Z, the TikTok generation. They want something different. They want something unique. We ran a whole series of dining in the dark where you're literally dining in complete darkness, and people are going beyond the traditional. There will always be a need for your regular traditional venues that have merits on their quality of product and delivery of service and all those sorts of things. I don't think they're going anywhere, but I think there's a huge growth in the experiential experience-based kind of economy where this whole generation of people who, people do want things different. They want to go to something that they can be seen to be at, and also partake in experiences that they wouldn't be able to do elsewhere. They're just completely novel. So there definitely is a shift, and you can see that whether that's cinemas moving towards trying to find ways that they can become more engaging as they lose audiences to Netflix and try and, I guess, recreate the kind of stale cinema piece through to restaurants, to bars, to even, shopping centers becoming more and more on point to try and work out ways they can kind of increase the customer shopping experience. We're definitely moving into this augmented reality. VR will kind of start to play aspects in that. We're already seeing that in certain other areas. We're working on a bit of a go-karting VR experience for some US pop-ups. And we're starting to see those technologies start to play together as well in the everyday kind of event world and into restaurants and bars.
So when you're looking for advice, either conceptually or commercially, who are you looking to? And this can be an individual, can be brands or businesses that are doing things well, that you're honing in on certain things that they're doing that you go, oh, this is something that we need, or this is something that the industry needs, or something that can really, really assist. What is it that you're looking to, or who, and then how are you implementing that?
I think we're constantly, to be honest, casting our net, going to a whole variety of, whether it's going to taking all our staff to multiple different venues to sort of see what they're doing right, whether it's looking at various companies that we think their experiences and whatever they're creating are amazing. What is it, learnings we can take? I think we're always looking at different businesses. So I don't think it's any one or any person in particular. I think it's just constantly looking at the landscape as a whole and kind of looking in and seeing what other people are doing well, what things work in those sort of spaces, and then how we can take those learning and constantly, I guess, evolve and improve our own offerings as well. And so from whether it's the drinks, our venue, and looking at different brands that are really well known for the quality of their cocktails and wine lists and of their produce, and taking learnings away from that to bring back to our venues, or whether it's looking at service aspects, again, looking at venues or businesses that are known for exceptional service and how we can implement those things into our day-to-day business. And so I think we're just looking at different aspects across the market, across the landscape, of just taking bits and pieces of learnings away and trying to unravel those into our own day-to-day operations.
So what stands out as something there? So when you're observing something, how do you know that it is something that it is useful? Is it something that's novel? I mean, novels sort of come up a few times for how you build things in your business and these novel experiences for customers. But how do you then identify in another business something that you go, okay, this is something that we could use?
Definitely, we'd be looking at what they're doing right and how we can perhaps improve and recreate that. So when we look to other hospitality businesses, I think it's more in terms of a quality control process, and we're new to the operations game. Background in a pop-ups in large scale festivals, but not necessarily in actually running a 400 or 500 person venue with multiple moving parts. And so there's definitely been a process of speaking to different bar owners and luckily good friends that are operators, and finding out, how do you do this and what do you use for this, and different ways that we can improve operationally as a business behind the scenes. And then also looking at what they're not doing well that we can improve upon, but then looking, just ways that we can be unique and differentiate ourselves from everyone else in the market as well. So looking at things that everyone else is doing and perhaps we do something completely different that stands out. For example, instead of trying to focus on good service. We're focusing on trying to create an experience that's based around bad service in a tongue-in-cheek way. But we're then really thinking and harnessing on like, how can we deliver a really fun, happy experience by delivering really bad service? So that's been quite a fun and exciting project to kind of work on. And it's a very fine line between, we actually do probably want the 5 stars on Google, but if someone gives us 1 star, how can we make that a thing? I don't know. I know. Why don't we put those all over the bathroom? And, it's kind of championing those things to kind of make us stand out and be engaging and different whilst trying to, look constructively at everyone else and how we can improve ourselves all the time.
In developing and now at the stage that you're at, I'm sure that you've got some friction or challenges that you're dealing with. What is it that's providing a source of challenge or giving you a lot of friction at the moment that you're working through?
The large friction that we're kind of up against at the moment would be the stop-start nature of the kind of Australia-wide hospitality economy at the moment. With things opening and closing, you start to gain some really good traction in a space, then you have to cancel all those bookings and try and encourage them to rebook, and you build up a reputation, and then all of a sudden you're kind of back to square one again. So that's definitely been an ongoing struggle, coupled with staff shortages across the board. And then just as we grow, our numbers, I think we're sort of 350 people across Australia at the moment in terms of people working across our venues. It's just managing all those people, the challenges that comes with managing people, and then trying to deliver the best quality product in everything we do whilst dealing with all the other headaches that kind of go around that, and just really trying to work out within ourselves how everything's managed and how we can kind of maintain that really cool culture within the business of everyone delivering, and everyone, all our team, lots of ideas as well from things at venue come from our, we really encourage that as part of the team. That what would you like to see? What can we do better? Any ideas that you've got, even ideas for concepts. And then we like to kind of back people and push those sorts of things as well. So maintaining our identity as we do grow and expand is going to be something that's going to be important to us as well.
So ultimately then, where do you want to be? What does success look like for Viral Ventures?
We're driven to really be that leader in the market and to be a brand name that's known as a company that does run the most fun, exciting, engaging venues across the globe. We're really driven and motivated by being able to sort of step back and just see tens of thousands of people a week interact with your experiences in your venues and kind of walk away really happy and deliver something different that no one else is doing. And so, for me, it's really continuing to grow that and to be always delivering something new, unique and novel. And I guess being able to do that well, and just being at a point where we're running multiple venues in multiple cities that are delivering these things on a daily basis.
I've just got one last question for you today, Aden. Who would you like to hear on the show?
I think you should try and tap up Michael Schreiber at FunLab.
Okay. I haven't reached out to Michael, but I absolutely should. So thank you for putting his name forward. Aden, thank you very much for joining me on the program today. It's been a pleasure having you on, and I'm really excited to see how things develop, even the COVID pandemic. So thank you again for joining me, and all the very best.
Cheers. Thanks very much for having me.
This program is hosted by James Henderson. Voiceovers were by Angus Brennan and Shim Phelan. Thanks to our distribution team, and a special thanks to you for tuning in every week. This program was produced by H Media. We'll see you soon.